Song of Love is a pretty interesting film. I don't think it's one I would have watched, or even I don't think I would have been aware of it had it not been for Katharine Hepburn. So I'm glad I had a reason to watch it. This was released in 1947. It's directed by Clarence Brown. And this is about Brahms and Clara Schumann and Robert Schumann. And basically their life together, and they're composing, and I don't want to give away too much about what happens in the narrative, but it certainly isn't the most intricate narrative. It's more about a character study of their personalities, their dedication to their music, to their work, and also their relationship. And I'm coming at this as somebody who knows, or knew, I guess, next to nothing about any of them. I knew a little bit more about Brahms, but the Schumanns, not really very much at all. So for me, it was very much an opportunity to learn about them, and I did some background reading, well, after the film. If you're watching it as somebody who's very familiar with their life and their work, then it might be a very different experience, and I'd love to know what you think of it if that's you and that's where you're coming from. But personally, I enjoyed it. However, I don't know, because of that, I don't know how much of it is true. Wikipedia describes it as a fictionalized romance set in the 19th century. And because I'd read that part, I was kind of in the mind that it might not be too based on fact. And there are certain things about it that I know to be true, but there are things that I just took with a pinch of salt. If you can provide any information about that, please feel free to let me know. As I said, the narrative itself is not always the most fascinating, but the characters are, particularly Clara, played by Katharine Hepburn. I was really fascinated by her. There's this one scene where she does this amazing performance, and then she runs away from the piano to feed a baby, and it's just incredible. And she's such a fascinating character. And again, I don't know how much of that is based on truth, but I found Hepburn's performance to be really fascinating. And we also have Robert Walker as Brahms and Paul Henreid as Robert Schumann. And I found all of their performances to be really interesting, but for me, Clara was certainly the most fascinating. Needless to say, the music in this is absolutely stunning, and we have a lot of performances, in theory, from Brahms and the Schumanns, and the music is absolutely gorgeous and really stunning, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. I don't think it's the kind of film I could watch again and again, but if in the future I ever learn more about the Schumanns or Brahms or take a particular interest in their music, I would be more than happy to come back and check this out again, because, as I said, I think based on your knowledge of their work or their personal lives, I think it might be a very different experience. But for me, coming at it with not that much background information, I rather enjoyed it, and I quite liked it. And as I said, Hepburn in particular gave a pretty wonderful performance. Really thoroughly enjoyed it. Definitely worth checking out if it sounds like your kind of film. I'd love to know what you think of it if you are quite familiar with Brahms or the Schumanns. But for me, Song of Love was certainly a very interesting film with some really fascinating characters and obviously some really gorgeous music.